So, you clicked on my video, The Geography of a Mansion. Ooh, I hope you're willing to go on a little journey because the applicability of that title is debatable. The working title was actually The Geography of Resident Evil Remake, but that'd send kind of the wrong impression. I'm not gonna piece together cutscene footage and textures to geo-guess where this mansion is. Of course, we all know it's in the Arklay Mountains, high in the hills above Gobbler's Knob, Pennsylvania. No, I'm not going to do anything like that. I'll do something much less useful. Geography isn't just about memorizing place names, like Gobbler's Knob, Pennsylvania. It's also about methods of visualizing space. So instead of peeking around the boundaries of this game, I'm going to play on its terms. I'll be mapping and analyzing Spencer Mansion, straight up, through a variety of means though. But Jude, you idiot, you might say, the game already has a map in it. Wait, it does? Really? I'm gonna spread the word. The reason I want to take this game at face value in a fun and not tedious way is my love for it. I first picked it up a few months back on a whim and 10 disposable dollars, and I found out very quickly why it's a classic. It struck me in a way only the best of horror can. It terrified me, then it mystified me, and finally it impregnated me. I mean, it penetrated my mind, and it's still rattling around up there. Like, from my first playthrough, when everything was just so unfamiliar and scary, to my growing curiosity and its inner workings with every subsequent run. It's deeply, deeply scary and deeply interesting. One of the best in the survival horror genre, which speaks to its quality. It was also the very first. So, I'll start with how it managed to scare me so badly, and how the mansion's geography plays into that. What I mean by geography of a mansion I'll also define. Remember I said this and hold me to it, okay? As anyone would, I've used a few strategies to help me cope with the horrors. And of course, as anyone would, this involved research, spatial analysis, and even math. If you're here for the geography side of the title, I really hope this section will satiate you. But to get to that nice illustrative light at the end of the tunnel, we first need to brave the survival horror. Welcome to Resident Evil Remake. Well, I lied. Resident Evil 1 wasn't really the first survival horror, and it wasn't even the first one to be rendered in 3D, although it was the first one to be scary, if you ask me. Nonetheless, you can't deny its legacy. It's like a genre-defining book, like Lord of the Rings, say. It's not that it created its genre so much as it just pulled in bits and bobs of old ideas and mixed them with some stuff no one had come up with yet, along with some seminal hunks in there. And the new formula would come to define the genre thereon. As for what Resident Evil pulled together specifically, I'll mention the three scariest elements to me and how they're served by the game's geography. The first element, which you're faced with as soon as you enter Spencer Mansion, is the lack of information. You're a blind fish in a big pond, and your map reflects that. Look at all that negative space you have yet to fill. The mechanisms of the game, while they do push you along, do expect you to cope with this lack of information. It doesn't tell you how to get past the greenhouse monster, it just expects you to find the herbicide, then use your head as to where it goes and what lever to pull. Look at that, Chris, your police education coming in handy. The game also doesn't give you instructions for most enemy encounters, although you will find out the hard way if you choose to fuck around.
Oh, hey, sorry, buddy. Hey, I still got it, though.
But the slow, trotting pace of zombies speaks to their relative powerlessness. Why not just go around them? On the other hand, some enemies leap at you with speed and aggression. Even if your gamer senses don't scream kill the dogs, your police education should come in handy here too.
Kill that dog!
Another thing I often overlook about RE Remake, cause I'm so used to its influence, is the health system. By clunkily opening up your menu in a move which takes like a million years, you can see a vague approximation of your health, classified by 3 different colors here. It's hard to describe how bold of a move this was, and I can only imagine how much it confused players at the time. Imagine renting games for your PS1 and going from this to this. You never know just exactly how close you are to a significant game over. And to check, you have to put everything on pause. It sounds annoying, but in practice, you get to know your character's health pretty well. The second element, de-emphasized control, is a big ol' part of the horror in this title. Anyone who's ever played a game with tank controls knows how frustrating they can be, but they're also very effective for suspense. When a hunter crashes through a door and you have to try and escape a room, it really emulates the feeling of fumbling at a doorknob. But with how narrow some of its little hallways are, RE Remake expects you to get good with these controls. Of course, there's also the option for joystick control, but that's a coward's move. That's totally not something I would do. Seriously though, the controls in this game are miles ahead of other tank-controlled games of the era. Orienting yourself from the perspective of the character is absolutely engrossing.
Left, right, left, left, right. Left. Right. Left. Left. Right. Fuck. Wrong right. No. Right. Oh my god. Okay. Good boy, Chrissy. Next save room, you get a dog treat. On me.
But all of this encumbrance on the player, as effective as it is only really half the equation. It's Resident Evil's enemies, mainly their unpredictability, which drives the horror. What I quickly learned the first time I was decapitated by a hunter was that these enemies don't follow normal video game rules. You can't be quite sure how much damage they'll do or how much damage they'll take either. No, because that would make sense. Crimson Heads are the worst about this though, as their health ranges from 300 to 2600. So killing them with a handgun takes anywhere from 2 to like 2600 bullets. Okay, not really, but that's how it feels sometimes. Bosses are a little more predictable, but the bosses aren't really the scary part of this game. To illustrate this, consider that brief second it takes to assess a room once you hear the door shut behind you. Practically anything could appear on the other side in that brief moment. Even if nothing appears, that doesn't mean something isn't lying in wait. And this unpredictability brings the height of the game's suspense. And a big snake showing up and hissing at you in a cutscene doesn't nearly match up to it. And if you want to talk about unpredictable enemies, well...
Oh really? I didn't know you could come out here.
RE Remake is meaner with the jump scares than I expected for a game its age. With gameplay requiring so much patience, plotting, and routing, tossing enemies into the mix like this is such a dastardly move. Other forms of this unexpected appearance can be seen all over the game. Beating your first Crimson Head, or hell, even the mandatory one upstairs. Opening the residence door to a giant spider in your face. And let's not forget every single time this guy gets you around the corner. I might honestly hate Resident Evil if I wasn't in so deep already. Where'd they make this game? Stockholm, New Jersey?
He's right behind me, isn't he? Oh my god.
Okay, I lied to you again. There's another, fourth element RE Remake uses to scare me that I couldn't not mention. And that is, of course, the fear of the unknown. The most primal one of all. Your first playthrough of, well, any video game is special in part because you don't know what its limits are. As a kid, my idea for the perfect video game was one in which you could do anything. It was naive, sure, but all that stuff I didn't know about, processing power and dev time gave video games a kind of magical property to them. It may sound silly, but I felt similarly naive when playing RE Remake. Under a brain fog spread over my frontal lobe. Just what was this game capable of? And what it is capable of, what is it cruel enough to pull on me? And if I'm this bewildered, poor Chris is probably shitting himself. He's like a rat running through a maze, totally unaware of what he's unaware of, and totally at the mercy of the maze makers. He just pushes up against the walls until he finds a solution. Even then his overlords might throw in a little extra fuck you. The first moment which clued me into how much I didn't know was when a zombie broke through a door. It made me babble like I was a kid after watching scary TV for the first time because my older sister was watching it with her friends and I couldn't sleep for days afterwards. Oh my god. Slappy the dummy's real and he's gonna get me. Fuck. What I mean is, this zombie breaking the rules of the game scared me because of just what it suggested. Anything is possible. Nowhere is safe. Spencer Mansion, as a setting, also plays nicely into this fear. The mansion is such a horror icon. It's hard to match the intrigue of peeling old wallpaper and winding corridors, rooms covered in dust and creaking stairwells. It feels vastly big and terrifyingly dense, too. Until you find that first map, this place might as well be endless. One door leads to another, which leads to another, which leads to another. All the while, you're getting farther and farther from your last save point. Of course, this isn't the case. It isn't really endless, but could you say otherwise that first time you stepped into the lobby? And that's what I mean by fear of the unknown. Back in reality, I have a bit of a confession. This fear of big old houses of mine came from this beast of a childhood home I grew up in. Let me tell you, from me, Jude, to you, viewer, this thing was crazy. There was like 4 floors, each one connected by 2 grand stairways, red carpets, all that. There was my own private library where I grew up reading and wasting my days away. And the courtyard was simply magnificent. Hedge mazes, ornate statues, you wouldn't believe it. Oh, and who could forget the grand hearth, adorned by an ancient, haunted painting of my forefathers. Yes. Now let me go and look at the Zillow listing so I can refresh my memory. What? Okay, so it was actually pretty small. A far cry from a mansion, but about as good as you could get in Dangle, Idaho. I can't emphasize it enough, though, the grandness of it to little old me. In its oldness and weird room connections, it was practically Winchester Mystery House. Looking back on it now, here's what I remember. Downstairs entrance was an enclosed veranda. Beyond it, a stairwell, which was always cold and always scary. It had 3 doors, one of which went to the living room. The other went straight to the dining room. Kitty corner to the stairwell, an angled room with a fireplace and a big window. The fireplace room and dining room connected, as well as to the puny little kitchen, which stuck out in the backyard. In the other corner was a study/library office thing, and between them was a back door and a miniature little bathroom. Upstairs was the creaky hallway of my nightmares and all the scariest rooms in the house. All of them squat and covered in weird, garish wallpaper. On one side of the hall was my room and my mom's, connected by a door which never really stayed shut. On the other side of the hall was my sister's room, a closet, and the bathroom from hell. There was this terrifying clawfoot bathtub in there. And of course, I famously hate clawfoot bathtubs. Make sure to keep up on the Jude lore for the quiz later. So, this old house in Dingle was all I had. Running from my room down to the kitchen for a midnight snack was just harrowing. Don't get me started on the trek to the downstairs bathroom. Jeez. When I went out into the hallway from my room, I used to imagine that in the split second before I turned on the light, the monsters in the dark, I forgot to mention there were monsters in the dark, would all scutter away and hide in the floorboards. And that's why, when I was moving so slowly and carefully at night, the house would creak 10 times louder than usual. I don't know, something about old houses just brings out the naivete in me.
Lickers, you have a long tongue. I'm quite scared of you, but you think I am fun. You lack skin. It's quite ugly indeed. You're something your mom wouldn't feed. This is my last. This is my last, so I'll mention you eyes. They don't exist! What a surprise. Oh man, that's silly.
Believe it or not, I'm only human. I cling on to those things that relieve me from the horrors. I could sit in a safe room for an hour just organizing my item box, smoking my green herb and reading poetry, ignoring the outside world and its problems. All the while so grateful to be safe and sound. But, of course, you can't hide forever. If I'm gonna best this game, I need some courage. So, here's how I've really gotten over my fear of Spencer Mansion. Firstly, ruthless exposure. I've played the game 6 times now, which is kinda strange for me. I'm not usually so eager to delve back into horror, but this case is different. The impregnable mansion has truly locked me in its doors. Secondly, diving into the story and characters has helped. I love learning what little glimpses of the mansion's history I am allowed, and lucky me, I hear the following games go into it with more depth. As for characters though, Barry and Wesker are my favorites. They just have so much personality in them. Chris is nice to look at too, which can help distract me. Where are you from, boy? Cakey butt, Washington? Thirdly, reading deep into the game online has helped. The unpredictable things I now know are more predictable than expected. But I like to keep my online research to old boards and FAQs where everyone was clueless. I think it has 1,000 health. It might despawn. You probably don't need to grab it. It adds to the mystery, I guess. Those 3 methods have gotten me thus far, but I'm still not done with this game. So I've taken to doing my very own analysis. Spatial analysis, that is one of those things like reading, which I always swear off in class, but secretly do in my free time. The main tools I used include R, Excel, and Graph Commons. That being this free site that's good for network visualizations. Speaking of that, network theory, or graph theory as mathematicians call it, doesn't that confuse you guys? What about the other graphs? Basically, it's all about objects and their connections. If you've ever seen like a map of Wikipedia, which shows a big spider web of recipes and books and people, this is sort of like that. Except in the geography world, you usually connect locations. A common version is roads connecting cities. Let's say with the Wikipedia example, it'd be like Kitchen, Ohio being connected to Dishwasher, Salmon, Iowa. By way of a road, maybe dishwasher, disambiguation. It's a fun way to visualize connections a little abstractly. Let's look at my old house in Dingle, Idaho as a network, why don't we? Downstairs is here in dark green, and it roughly shares the same layout as the real floor plan. The lines just indicate connections, so doors basically. The size of each node reflects the amount of connections, so you can see that the dining room and stairwell are connected to the most rooms. One thing not included here is connections to the outside, because if the outside was a node, that'd be a really big node, so I didn't include it. On the second floor, in the lighter color green, everything connects back to this main hallway. It kind of spreads out like a 5-legged spider or like a crab or something, I don't know. The only rooms connected here, other than the hall, are my old room and my parents' room. This being an often abused design choice when Slappy was around. Also, check this shit out. By using the auto layout tool over here, you can make it look squirmy. I know it looks way different from the usual house, but this squishy thing lets you do analysis like clustering and centrality. Those are especially helpful for large datasets like we'll get to. More on that later though. Anyways, look how squiggly it is. Where'd they build this house, Rain World? Back in the hills above Gobbler's Knob, let's return to the mansion. The first part of my analysis was making custom maps. If you hadn't realized already, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with this place, but mapping it out was definitely fun. Believe it or not, all these rooms somehow don't have official names. The wikis have their own naming conventions, and while most of them are shared, they're not exactly the most creative. So the room has Plant 42 in it? Well, of course, that's the Plant 42 room. It's a hallway shaped like an L? You know that's the L hallway. So what you're saying is, it's a passage that kills you? Fuck it, that's Death Passage. For my map, I use my own convention. 4 letters, G, S, B, and X denote floors. Those being ground floor, second floor, basement, and stairs, which are kind of between floors. Then I add a number by counting left to right across the map. G1's in the west and G26 is in the east. Got it? Good. Remember that for the quiz, alright? On the topic of rooms, I know I said I was going to play fair with this game, but I find this very funny, so just bear with me here. In this big-ass mansion with a grand foyer, like 3 libraries, a whole second house, and a whopping 4 rooms dedicated just to art, there's only 1 bathroom. And it's in some random little far-flung corner of the map. Those Spencers must have had bladders like damn camels. They don't make them like they used to, huh? Anyways, next up, I went ahead and made all those rooms into nodes in our network. It makes for an interesting perspective on a house, doesn't it? Sort of like a baboon. You see it? No, just keep looking, keep looking. Just kidding, it's more like a spooky face than anything. Because I used my own room addresses for this, I tried to replicate the shape of the mansion as best I could. Remember, all the X's are rooms with stairs, and the 2 floors represented here are as vertically positioned as I could get them. You may ask, 2 floors? What about floor 3? Well, get this. It's not really a floor. It's actually only 2 rooms, that being the death passage and the library, both of which I coded X. The passage, where you get the armor key, has stairs which connected to the 2nd floor, making it a stairwell. And the library is, of course, also spanning 2 floors, so I coded that X as well. Wacky, isn't it? The nodes scale with the amount of connections, so you can already start to see some patterns here. X3, the main hall, has the most connections at 8, and that's not including the front door or the door to the altar. The other 2 main X's, being X2, the west save room stairs, and X4, the east save room stairs, are also pretty big. X4 connects to 6 rooms, while X2 connects to 5. With how central these 2 are to navigation, especially as they tie floors 1 and 2, it's no wonder they're always packed with enemies. As for the other nodes with high connectivity, as you might have expected, they're mostly hallways. They also have a lot of enemies, just like the stairs. Key choke points in your exploration. So all the following halls have 5 connections. G6, the F-shaped hallway by the greenhouse. G13, that hallway where a hunter first jumps you. G20, the hallway where 2 hunters jump you. G1, the hallway where you see the turnaround zombie.
Never mind. Just let him blow up, I guess. Fuck you, buddy.
And finally, S8, the C-shaped hallway up by the armor puzzle. Something kinda interesting about this map came up when I was researching how to do a least cost path analysis using rooms and halls. Basically, I wanted to know the quickest routes Chris could rub his nose through to get from place to place, similar to using Google Maps to route from one place to another by way of a road. But unlike cities and roads, the distinctions between rooms and halls are kinda arbitrary. Like, what is a hallway but a long room and vice versa? Also, hallways aren't always the most desirable route due to being chock full of enemies. Having them be the only route to move on feels incorrect. I'll have to come up with something else. In the meantime, while I figure that out, the main kind of analysis that Graph Commons does is clustering. This divvies up the network into chunks around big centers of connection. It also creates a set of colors, and doesn't that look nice? To get a better look at each cluster, let's use the auto-grouping feature. This will move them together and, ugh. Behold the icky, sticky, slimy spiderweb map of Spencer Mansion. A cool shape, sure, but it doesn't really look like anything to me. Like, if this was a constellation, what would you call it? The mess? The ugly? I don't know. If you have any idea, feel free to comment it. But what I really love about this network is that the shape of the mansion isn't entirely gone. I know, it sounds crazy, but allow me to explain. This pink shit over here represents the 2nd floor west wing hallway with the crimson head, and those rooms that branch off of it. It also has the armor key room and the library, which, for whatever reason, has an inoperable door to S5, not being shown here. This cluster miraculously stayed up in the top left corner. The red nodes here represent the basement, which has formed this nice smiling arc at the bottom. This is a very straightforward part of the game, which starts on the right at S18, the east wing room where you burn a map, and follows below the mansion to B1, the kitchen in the west wing. All this golden slot between the pink and red is the messiest, but I hope you can tell what area it is regardless. I'll give you a second. Okay, after that pregnant pause, do you have an idea? Well, it's the whole west wing ground floor. It's made of a bunch of smaller clusters like G1, G6, and X2, which then stretch back over to the main hall, being X3. The main hall's in the very center, which is really all I wanted for this network. Stupendous. That purple shit is the northeast chunk of hallways, close to where Jill becomes lunch meat. It being in the bottom right feels weird, yeah, but the stuff above it is all 2nd floor, so I understand why it's here. Anyways, the East Hall's always been kind of the scariest for me, what with all the enemies. Yeah, not a big fan of this cluster. Finally, the upper right green cluster is pleasantly in the correct place. This is the second floor east wing. It branches from X4, the eastern stairs, and S8, the C-shaped hall. Those big-ass rooms where you encounter Yawn and the sliding puzzle have lost a lot of their visual prominence in the hierarchy, neither having very many connections. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, it's been a hot minute since we checked in on our friend Chris, hasn't it?
Chris, look out! Chris! Unidentified fucking thing! Chris, look out! Oh my god! Unidentified fucking thing! Unidentified fucking thing! Chris, look out!
Whew! They don't train you for killer bees in police school, let me tell you. But, he's got it under control. It's a good thing he didn't overreact, huh? My goal was to make a tool for routing around the mansion. I felt like I had all the pieces. The networks, the wikis, the programs. Seriously, I had it all, but somehow pulling it together ultimately eluded me. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink after all. Call it choice paralysis with so many moving variables. Or maybe there wasn't so much to this idea in the first place. So, to be honest with you, I quit while I was ahead. I mean, the game already has a map, so no big deal, right? Thanks for watching. And, sorry, Chris. Just kidding, I lied again.
Oh fuck, where am I going? Oh my god. Oh my god! Kill that dog! What the fuck? I didn't know they could do that. I just put a grenade in its mouth.
Alright, let's keep this thing rolling. No matter how stuck I was at this point in the process, I knew that the first step of every kind of research was this: defining your variables. If I was going to accomplish any analysis more complicated than that, it'd all stem from this one first step. So, back to basics we go. With the least cost path, you find the best route through a network. For the Kitchen Ohio to Dishwasher Salmon path, instead of taking Dishwasher, you might consider a shortcut on a recipe route. But why? Well, more often than not with shortcuts, it's about time or efficiency. But I'm not really a speedrunner in this here mansion, so what variable could be applicable? Well, what about danger? I'm kind of a little baby, so having a tool to route around danger would be super handy. Imagine Chris is a big, fat bug on a spiderweb. He has limited maneuverability, but can still crawl around in 2 dimensions. However, getting caught by a spider would be instant death, which isn't entirely inaccurate when you're at low health. So this route I'm making will take him through as little danger as possible. In some cases, the route will be a little longer, or sometimes a little shorter than you'd expect, in order to get around danger. Using Evil Resource, which is definitely the best wiki on this game, by the way, I went through and cataloged danger. Yes, I know, I lied, I don't just use FAQs. I was a baby born from the waters of Liar River, Washington, after all. Each enemy type presents a different challenge, so I gave them different weights. Zombies get 1, as do dogs and spiders. In most situations, they're not that dangerous.
Bro. Bro, are you serious?
Crimson Heads, Hunters, and that freaky guy on the balcony all get 2. Dangerous even alone, but consider them major threats when they're in numbers.
Forwards. Oh my god, there's 2 of them. Okay, wrong way. I know, I went the wrong way. Oh, no.
The room values ranged from 0 to 4, classified from white to red. A few points on this map here. Yes, it's only for Jill's normal route. Sorry, Chris, but I only wanted to make one of these things, considering it could be the base of the entire analysis from here on out. And Jill's map I could both find lots of data on, and could personally attest to, having played it last.
Dog treat later, okay? We really have to fart for now. I mean part for now.
This here map is also the fullest extent of itself, which isn't always what you want when routing. Think, like, for example, during most of your time in the mansion, this graveyard shortcut will be blocked off. So why did I only map the fullest extent, you may ask? Because I didn't, I lied again. Here's 4 maps, splitting up the 4 extents across the game. Before the sword key, before the armor key, before the helmet key, and with everything fully unlocked. You could also look at them as kind of a time series to see how danger evolves during the game. Yes, danger evolves. Lots of enemies move around and things don't really stay the same. I accounted for most of this, I mean as much of it as I could, but... Okay, this is kind of strange, but get this. There's these 2 zombies in the graveyard who I really can't keep track of. I know they're here at the beginning of the game, but they're not around by the time you unlock the gate from the other side. So where'd they go and when? I don't know, it's so strange. Anyways, did you know that lots of people get buried alive every year, and statistically speaking, it's happened to someone you know, and will basically probably happen to you too? Huh, I just thought that was interesting. While yes, it is nice to have all this information displayed all pretty and color coordinated like this, its usefulness is kinda debatable. Except for those with poor memory like me, I guess. I think you're expected to remember most enemy placements on your own, and maybe forgetting them is part of the design. Walking into a room and remembering it's a death trap only after you've opened the door is such a harrowing experience. But with my ideal least cost path tool, that should never happen. Unfortunately, I'm making little headway in terms of an actually useful tool. Sure, yeah, map is nice, especially for those with poor memory like me, but I'm still the one who has to come up with the routes on this thing. It's as much a tool as an old compass is. I want Google Maps in this bitch. This ain't no Dingle, Idaho with its 2 roads. This shit is like Boston. Everywhere goes everywhere, and also somehow nowhere, and you're in danger the entire time. God, okay, I'm getting really frustrated. Let's check in on Chris.
1 plus 3 equals 4. 4 plus 6 equals 10. 1 plus 6 equals 7. 10 plus 7 equals 17. 17 plus 3 equals 20. I'm surprised that Chris can even read that.
Suddenly, I don't feel like such an idiot. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. The enemy map is nice for those with poor memory like me, but maybe R could help me out? Well, after some research, I found R could analyze networks and even make least cost paths, but they're a pain to code and R's default plot's like a bit shit. But you know what? If it's what's available to me, why not? The amazing thing about coding is that anyone with enough stubbornness can create something with it. I'm a very weak coder, let me tell ya, and I scrape most of this from tutorials and examples, but I managed to make a network of the mansion. Again, I know it looks a bit shit. If anything, I'm probably just missing the skill to polish it up real nice. I also can't move the nodes, which is annoying, so whatever positions it generates will have to do. You've memorized the room codes by now, right? Okay, pop quiz. Which room is S8? No? Don't worry, I haven't either. The rooms are biting me in the ass here in more ways than one, though. Remember those problems I mentioned about turning houses into networks, halls and rooms and all that? Well, they're back. I had to learn a way to put weights of enemies on nodes instead of connections, and this was pretty tough. A lot of this stuff I did the good old-fashioned slow and manual way. At every step of this project, I am more and more glad I'm not mapping the whole game. Suddenly, though, I was getting a lot closer. A broken clock is right twice a day, as we all know, but my attempts were beginning to be right 3 times a day. Sometimes 4 even. Maybe even 5. I used this, iGraph package, which I really must shout out. Not everything used was neatly documented by them, but no shade, I think that's just how coding is sometimes. The whole ordeal meant that I had to use some pretty roundabout methods, and I'm not super proud of the final result. It's long and messy, and I'll probably keep it to myself for now. But hey, get this. My 3 times correct the day became 4, then 5, then 10, and even beyond, and I finally had a result worth calling useful. Let's demonstrate with a route from G26, the boiler, to G1, the Taz Hall. Maybe, let's say, Chris, with his itchy trigger finger, shot the turnaround zombie but ran out of kerosene. So he had to run to the boiler to refuel, and now he must return ASAP. My code identified this path for him. G26, to G20, to G13, to G11, to G10, to X3, to G5, and finally back to G1. An interesting route, which isn't exactly what I would take, but numerically it makes the most sense. The danger level for this path is 9. 8 if you're not counting the dead Taz.
Fuck you, buddy.
It also gave me this little network visualization, but it's kind of shitty. Like, the colors aren't correct, and it only made a graph for this first one, so I'm just not going to use it from here on out. Where'd they make this code anyways? Schitt's Creek, Canada? For the next route, I'll give you a little peek at how it looks in R. First, I define what the start and end nodes are. In this scenario, I don't know, Chris is scouring everywhere for shotgun ammo before going into the courtyard tunnels. He didn't find any in S12, but he just read on the wiki there's some in B3, where you put the mask, so he's headed that way. By the way, none of the connections are directed, so the start and end nodes are pretty much interchangeable. R knows the danger level for each of these rooms, because I defined, that's right, every single node weight. R also knows all the connections, so it can find the path with the lowest weight through these rooms. In this case, it's through S14, then X4, then S8, X3, and B3. Again, pretty much what you'd expect, not too different. The total cost here is 6, which isn't too bad for a trek like this. So far, these 2 paths have been pretty straightforward, but this is difficult Tennessee for crying out loud. Let's throw a wrench in the mix and say Chris opened up the front door and let a bunch of dogs in. How about 30? Chris felt he was in the clear as he just left the mansion for the last time, and then he realized that he forgot to get the CD from the tiger statue. So now he needs to trek from G17 all the way back to G7, avoiding 30 rabid dogs. I pray you never have to avoid 30 rabid dogs, my friend, because here is the bad news. The next safest route has a score of 17. But Chris needs that CD, and the path will be long and hard, but okay, the path will be difficult. So here's what R found. G17 to G12 to G13 to X4 to S18 to S15 to G18 to B4 to B2, B1, G1, G6, and finally G7. Yes, you have to brave the entire basement cluster along with the eastern stairs. A pretty monumental task. You really shouldn't have let those dogs in, Chris.
What's up? Gaming Professor here. All in all, this code's a far cry from the panacea to solve my fears of RE Remake, but I've been looking at this game for so long now, I'm starting to see the Matrix. And that's not a good thing. I don't want this game to lose all its power over me. It's not just a puzzle to be solved. The terrifying scares, the terrific design, the funny characters, even the poetry. Oh my god, even the poetry. Maybe my faults go a little deeper than expected. Maybe I'm not just a liar and forgetful and an idiot and a drunkard and a liar, but maybe I'm just too hung up on understanding to even have fun with this game. So while I do have this tool and I'm very proud that I could make it, doesn't mean I'll be using it again. Believe it or not, I kinda like how this game plays on my childhood fears. It's absolutely electric with tension. It holds me at knife's edge and demands my damnedest. I just love it. And also, it's good practice for patience and memory, and I could use both of those. Speaking of that, was I forgetting something? No, I don't think so. Where am I from anyways? Mount Forget, British Columbia. Gaming Professor, out. Thanks for watching.